everybody. I think I'm going to call the meeting to order. We have a little bit of a non-traditional agenda tonight since we have new board members to welcome, and then we need to vote on new chairs and co-chairs before we can have a functional meeting. So I think we're going to start there. So even though, excuse me, we said we'd approve the minutes first, I think I'd like to start with introductions of everybody. Then we'll go right into our elections, and then we'll come back to minutes later. Since we have some outside guest presenters tonight, we want to try to get them up first as well, so they don't have to necessarily stay for the whole meeting. And it looks like we have a number of public to be heard. So we want to try to get through our introductions on board elections quickly so we can hear from our guests tonight. Any kind of questions about the rearranged agenda tonight before we start introductions? Everybody all right with that? Okay. Stephanie, do you want to start with roll call? Thanks.
Board Member Wilkins. Here. Board Member Starrett. Here. Board Member Wickland. Here. Board Member McKee-Burrows. Here. Board Member McInerney. Here. Board Member Zortman. Here. Board Member Palmino. Here. And Councilmember Popkin. Here.
Great. And sorry, I forgot to introduce myself for those online in the recording. I'm Cammie Edson, the Transportation Planning Manager for the City of Longmont. If we just maybe want to start on this end and we'll make our way this way, introduce yourself, say how long you've been involved with the board and kind of why you wanted to get involved in the board, and then we'll just quickly get through everyone, and then we'll get to elections. Jim, do you want to go first? And then we can loop back around to Councilmember Popkin.
Yeah, this is Jim Palmy. Stay engaged in what was going on in the community and be able to be a part of some of the active planning and other activities going on, particularly with transit and pedestrian and cycling issues are top of mind as well.
Great. And Jim, just for the recording, will you say your name and how long you've been on the board again?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
It's Jim Palmino. I've been on the board since the first of the year.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Arlene?
My name is Arlene Zortman. I've been on since the first of the year. And the reason for being on is just, kind of to find out what's going on. I've seen a lot of things around the city that I thought were doing a lot of really good work. So it's just kind of a, what are we doing and where are we going type thing.
I'm David McInerney. I'm beginning my 6th year as a board member. I got interested in the Transportation Advisory Board when I read the Envision Longmont Comprehensive Plan. I have a career background in environmental and land use planning. I worked for multidisciplinary consulting firms on a number of projects that included transportation components. I'm a member of the American Planning Association and the American Institute of Certified Planners.
My name is Gina McKee-Burrows. I have been on tab for 3 years, and I'm beginning my 2nd term as of tonight. I've been involved in the Bicycle Issues Committee, which is where I originally became interested in transportation, mainly because I got a bike and I started experiencing what it's like to ride a bike around town firsthand, and it made me really interested in kind of changing the way that we think about bikes, and then I was really excited about Vision Zero as well.
And my name's Taylor Wickland. I've been on the board. Well, this is now starting my 5th year on the board. And I joined partly because I was involved with the Bike Issues Committee, then also part of my, a lot of experience traveling the world and seeing a different way to live and kind of advocating for a Vision Zero program here, so which we've been working on. So that's why I'm here.
My name is Ross Starrett. I've been on the board for about a year now. I got into the board because I started seeing that there were a bunch of big changes coming in transportation in Longmont, And I was like, oh, this feels like a great opportunity for me to make my voice heard. And then also, when I was growing up, we spent 5 years living in Germany, where transportation works a little bit differently, and I thought that that perspective would be very welcome in Longmont.
Hi, my name is Amy Wilkins. I guess it's already been said, but anyway, I am brand new to the board. I am excited to join. What motivated me, I guess, is similar to some people. I grew up overseas also, so I've lived in a lot of different kinds of places, but also smaller communities in the United States. I really believe in communities, and I know that they're really important to people's lives. And I got a PhD in sociology. I was doing a lot of much more abstract work on communities. I love that work. But then I really wanted to get involved at a much more concrete level. I recently owned Spice e-bikes, an e-bike shop here in Longmont that helped me see, a much more direct way to get involved. And then, after that, I decided that this would be a great way to extend that. Although I'm not just a bike person. Bikes are only one way to move people around. Thanks.
Thanks, everybody, and congratulations to both of our board members who've been elected for their new terms. Oh, yeah, Councilmember Pocket, we did come back to you, please.
No problem. Matthew Popkin, City Council Member for Ward 2. I serve as the liaison to the Transportation Advisory Board and have this year. And I use transportation to get around town. So that's why I'm here. I've also worked on light rail issues, bike issues, pedestrian issues, bus routes, a whole host of things between Maryland, DC, and Colorado.
Great. Staff, maybe we'll just say a quick hi so we can introduce ourselves to the new board members. Kyle, do you want to start, please?
Kyle Howarth. Is it working? Yep. Okay. Kyle Howarth, city traffic engineer. Official title is traffic engineering administrator, but we handle all the traffic signal operations maintenance, as well as signing, striping, and assist in our CIP side with our other street engineers, improving, updating the signage, stripage, ADA compliance, and that type of infrastructure.
Good afternoon, Kaylee Fallon. I'm a transportation planner with the city. I've been with the city since October of 2024, and prior to that, I was at the Denver Regional Council of Governments for 4 years. I have my master's degree in urban resilience and sustainability from CU Boulder, and prior to that, I studied environmental policy. My work at the city includes transportation demand management work. I'm also the program manager for the microtransit program Ride Longmont and the project manager for the regional e-bike share program.
Jim Angstad, I'm the Director of Engineering Services. I oversee the improvement and maintenance to city's roadway and storm drainage, traffic signal system infrastructure.
Great. All right. Thank you, everybody. For voting, Stephanie or Ross, would you mind helping Amy when we get to this next part, when we talk about how we make our votes for chair elections? So we need to choose as a board a new chair and a new co-chair for this evening, depending on, especially if any of our prior, well, no, I guess we just have to do it all over again anyway. It's not that anyone's staying in their position. Sorry, I was thinking, does Taylor stay? But no, I think we have to redo it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just to clarify, we have to, elect both. So is there anybody who would like to put their name in to be chair?
And in the past, we've done nominations and then a second.
Then
a vote.
Do you also nominate yourself and then we can put in seconds?
Yeah. Well, I'll nominate board member McKee Burrows as chair.
Are there any seconds?
I second the nomination.
Do you accept the nomination? Yeah. Are there any other nominees? Okay, so Stephanie, can they open it for that first as a way to vote? You want me to? Sure. I don't know how to control the system of the eyes. I think you've got to do it.
I got the emotion already.
Emotion. You gotta vote.
But they have to vote.
All in favor of Chair McKee Burrows. Any against? Passed.
All right, well, congratulations, Chair McKee Burrows, once again. Yes, thank you. All right, for co-chair, any
want me to do it now?
nominations for co-chair?
Do you want me to do it now?
Go for it.
Now
Yep,
I'm
there, you're on it. Now we're back to normal. There we go.
Do we have any nominations for co-chair? I'm going to nominate Board Member Wickland. Any other nominations? Do you accept the nomination?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, all in favour?
Aye.
Okay. All right, shall I return to the normal beginning of agenda? All right, the Longmont land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that Longmont sits on a traditional territory of the Cheyenne, Arapaho, Ute, and other indigenous peoples. We honour the history and the living and spiritual connection that the first people have with this land. It is our commitment to face the injustices that happened when the land was taken and to educate our communities, ourselves, and our children to ensure that these injustices do not happen again. All right, I am going to ask if there's any changes to minutes from the last meeting. Okay. Can I have a motion to approve the meetings for the June 8th tab meeting, please?
I move to approve the minutes from the June 8th meeting.
And a second.
I'll second it.
All in favour?
Aye.
Okay. I will note, Stephanie, on the agenda, it says 2025. So, I just noticed it. Okay. We have already done our board welcome, so we're going to move on to public invited to be heard. And I don't have the list.
Oh, sorry. I was reading. These are
And I apologise if I pronounce anyone's names wrong, but can we call Jean Cheryl? I'm so sorry. Sheferl? I'm sorry about that.
Brad, coming up too? I think I'll get my. Okay. All right. I guess it'll bend. Oh, yeah, well, okay. Well, good evening. Yeah, my name is Gene Schiffrel, and I live on 1229 Cornell Drive. Cornell Drive is a small entrance of a little street that runs off of Mountain View into Twin Peaks Golf Course. And it's a residential street, and we live on that street. We're finding it is very difficult to access that street because of the heavy traffic in and out of the golf course. Especially in during the day when the tea times are coming up and people are rushing down, because as soon as they turn off of Mountain View, they see the golf club and they're headed for that to make sure they get to their tea time on time. So, we experience a lot of what we call excessive speeding for a small street like that. So what we're here to ask and maybe present to you, or maybe you have some ideas how we can mitigate that kind of traffic plus the speed that we're experiencing, trying to even get out of our driveways without getting hit, because by the time we try to see if anybody's moving into the street and we move out of our driveway, it becomes real hazardous. I've had several close calls just because of that. It's a short, very short street. So we'd like to, ask for your consideration. And here's the city. It is a city function that's using a residential street for access, and we really feel the city has some obligation to provide us with some kind of protection, perhaps mitigate the speed situation. And that's, I know that there's probably different avenues to do that. I guess we kind of look at Sunset Street and we see the speed humps there, and I think they're effective. I think that's something we've talked to all of the residents along that street, and they feel that that would be probably the most beneficial. Probably low cost. You don't need a lot of flashing lights or anything like that, because it's just a very, it's really, intimidating trying to get in and out of our street or our driveways. We sure would like to have some consideration for some kind of help with getting that controlled to a point where we can feel comfortable using our own street. Okay.
Thank you very much. Next up, we have Brad Yates.
Good evening, everybody. I'm another neighbor from Cornell Drive. I've lived there about 6 years. I've seen the city grow. I see the number of golfers coming and going. I yell at the speeders sometimes, and that's a challenge, and that seems stupid at this point to me, and we would just like to plead for some help to slow the traffic down a little bit. We have 11 houses on this block. I've talked to 10 of the neighbors. They're all in agreement with us. One neighbor's not in town right now. I would have spoken with them too, so we've engaged with Alex already. There's been talk of maybe a traffic study. They did this a couple years ago back in Marcia Martin's day, but nothing really ever happened. If you're going to do anything, I'd do a speed count on that road, not really traffic, because it's the speed that's the problem. And the amount of cars increases. This weekend there was a tournament. Next door neighbor almost got clipped backing out of her driveway. So that's we're glad you could listen to our voices and our concerns, and maybe there's something that can be done to slow the traffic down. So thanks for your time.
Thank you so much. Next we have John Gustafson. I'm so sorry. Apparently I can't read today.
Hi, can you hear me? All right, my name's Dr. John Gustafson. I've lived in Longmont now for over the last 20 years, and I live in northeast Longmont, just off Sundance Drive. There's another speeding issue. Lots changed in the last 20 years. Traffic, whole new neighborhood. Sundance Drive used to be kind of a small, out-of-the-way street, but now it's lots of traffic and speeding that goes on there. The speeding has got to the point that we requested from the city a study, which 2 studies were done. Both studies showed increased speeding, but then it went basically nowhere. This was last April when those studies were done. And I've come to learn that there's a thing called the Neighborhood Traffic Mitigation Program, something I was not aware of. And Sundance Drive is classified as a neighborhood collector street under that program, the Neighborhood Traffic Mitigation Program, which, by the way, was instituted, this was in 2006, so 20 years ago. And according to that program, I guess, through a citizen-initiated program, which I guess is what I fall into as a citizen-initiated, we are only eligible to get level 1 mitigation, which is maybe a radar sign or more signage, or maybe increased policing. In my opinion, that's really not going to work. And I'd like to see a level 2, which is a physical mitigation, which would be a speed bump, back to speed bumps, as the best way to control the speeds. And I would just like to say that at a program that's 20 years old, and a lot has changed in the last 20 years, is outdated and needs to be changed. And we either need to get that changed, that street changed, or to get an exception to that. Because right now, nothing is being done. So that's my concern. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay, next up we have informational items. No more. That's it, yeah. Okay. We are inviting RTD board members, Director Karen Benker and Director Lynn Geisinger.
And while we're getting situated and transitioning, and while we still have the public invited to be here, next month is going to be our tentative for the discussion about the new neighborhood traffic mitigation program. Heard stories from public. It's issues we want to address through the old program and bring into a new modern program. So just a quick reminder about bringing your comments and questions to next month's meeting.
We'll let Karen, Director Banker, and Director Geisinger get settled. Thank you both for making the time to come tonight. We're happy to have you. I know you've been a much desired presentation all year. Our board has been excited to chat with you. So we'll sort of turn it over to you. We gave you some general guidelines of topics that we're going to be interested, but we'll let you kind of guide us through what you think might be the most pertinent. I know we have been talking a lot about the proposed September changes that are on deck here with the board soon. So we'll take it away and kind of guide us through what you'd like. And for whatever reason, the microphone goes red when you're supposed to talk, not green for go. So okay. It seems a little unintuitive.
There it is. Is that on? Everybody good? My name is Lynn Geisinger. Thanks for having us. I'll let Karen introduce herself. We always enjoy coming to meet with all of you. There's a lot going on at RTD. We're going to talk about the things that were listed there, the bus service, the airport service, ridership and rail service. I guess they weren't listed in that order, but we'll also be explaining some of our budget issues and some of the other things that we are dealing with. I've been on the board almost 8 years. I go off at the end of December. And, it's we just got a lot we're dealing with. Karen has been doing a great job chairing the Finance Committee. But I'll let her introduce herself. I'll just say a couple of things because Karen's going to kick off with the airport and some of those things. But, right now, RTD is our CEO, Deborah Johnson, has said that she's going to leave it when her contract ends, which is next May. She may stay that long. She doesn't. There's no penalty if she finds another job and leaves sooner, but we're addressing that at the same time that we really have some serious budget issues that we're dealing with. And in our meetings this week, our committee meetings, the Finance and Planning meeting and the Operations and Safety meeting, we're looking at a lot of questions around: do we end up having to cut service? What are our other ways of raising money? Karen's been doing a great job and can give you more detail on some of those things. And I guess we'll start with that, and we can talk about some of the service change. We are both, I can say, fighting hard not to be cutting service. We really are probably going to have to go to the ballot for a tax increase by 2028. And my view, I think Karen's view generally, is the best way to do that is to scrap and try to get there without making any huge changes at the agency and be able to go to the public and say, here's what we're going to have to do if you don't give us money, and here are the good things, including working with the Broncos on their new stadium and other things, increasing service that we will do if we do. We are very early in that process, but it sort of overshadows a lot of what we are thinking about at this point. So I will turn this over to Karen, and I'll be back shortly.
Okay. Thank you very much for the invitation. It's nice to come back. I think it's fun to talk to transportation geeks, right? Thank you for volunteering and putting in the work. There is an awful lot, as Lynn has mentioned going on with RTD. My district, by the way, is most of Longmont, all the way down 287, so it includes Lafayette, Erie, and Broomfield. And then Lynn, her district is primarily the city of Boulder, but you've also got Longmont that is west of Hoover.
Right. And Superior and Lafayette, I mean, Louisville and
Yeah.
Lyons.
So that's generally where we are and what's going on. So let's start with some of the good news first. Okay, so everyone seems to be very interested in the Skyride service, which hopefully is going to be starting September 27th of this year. So here's where we are with that right now. It's got 2 more votes to go through. So this coming Wednesday, our operations committee is going to be approving the run board for this coming September. There's also a lot of other items on their agenda. So hopefully, my hope is they're going to sort of quickly just take the run board and say, yes, we're in favor of all of this. And then, of course, it's going to come to our full board meeting on July 28th. And once the board passes the run board on that time at the 28th meeting, then it's a done deal. And then we can start printing bus schedules and handing them out to everybody. But there's no doubt this is pretty exciting. So there's a whole group of folks that we need to thank for making this happen. Quite frankly, I'll tell you, it started right around last October, November, December. I was getting tons of emails. I don't know. I can guess who was behind some of these emails. I think some of our city council members were behind some of the emails. Sherry Malloy was behind a lot of them. But I'm sure Transportation Advisory Board members were behind a lot of the emails. So what I was doing is I was passing them off to our CEO and our service planning staff, and they listened. And so, excuse me, we also about that time got a new COO, Patrick Preuser. Unfortunately, is going to be leaving us soon. But, I sat down, talked with him, made my pitch. He knew about all of the emails that we had received, all the comments from other elected officials, and between elected officials here in Longmont and Commuting Solutions and just the general public, they said yes. So we are going to be starting, again, would be September 27th. It's going to start, the service right now is programmed to start at 6 a.m. and will go till about 12 p.m. and it's hourly. And so,
AM, right?
oh, did I say 6 a.m. to 10
Midnight, or is it 10
p.m.?
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Don't want to confuse people on the schedule here. And so it's going to be pretty exciting. I can't wait. I'm hoping actually that the city will help us put together a little ceremony to do a kickoff and maybe a little ribbon cutting as we board the 6 a.m. to DIA. We can go have breakfast at DIA and then come back. So at this point, the fare will be $10 for adults. It's half price, $5 for seniors 65 and over, and kids 19 and under are free. So I think hopefully it's going to be a good service. If it is used and if ridership numbers are really strong, then we can go back to our staff and request additional hours. Because, if you stop and you think it's going to take, a good hour and a half or so to get to the airport, and then, of course, you've got to report to your airline, usually 2 hours before. So I'm hoping that it would be great if at some point we can extend the hours a little bit earlier and maybe a little bit later. But, of course, there's always the AB, which leaves from Boulder, that if for some reason someone, had to take that because they missed the AL. By the way, AL stands for Airport Longmont. And so we're pretty excited. We're very excited, actually. So thank you for your help on that. We've also had some other bus improvements over the past couple of months. We've gotten the LX, which it goes specifically from Longmont over to I-25 and right to Denver. We've only got a few trips on that. Most of our trips they just changed the name from the LD to the 287. So the 287, we've gotten some additional trips on that just recently. In fact, just a couple months ago. And so that goes again from Longmont down to the Broomfield Park and Ride. And there you can pick up additional transfers, primarily the FF. That'll take you to downtown Denver and some other transfers too. But so there is some additional service. And by the way, I should also add that the stops on the AL and mostly also on the 287, it's going to start in Longmont at 8th and Kaufman, and go down to Niwot for a quick stop. I'm not quite sure how many folks going to the airport will park at Niwot, but they might be employees, might very well be airport employees that might use that. And then down to the Lafayette Park and Ride, and then get on to, E470 to make it to DIA. So we're excited about that. And again, we've got quite a bit of new service over the past year. We need to get more people to ride. We need to get our ridership numbers up. So any marketing, or encouragement that we could encourage the city of Longmont to do would be appreciated, because the more riders means we can ask for more service. So with that, I think I will turn it over for your part.
Karen started talking about the bus service, and that's fine. I'm going to just add a few things. Those letters, I think, really helped. I would suggest if you have a situation to send them again, have them send them to the board and to service.change@rtd-denver.com, because that's where it gets to the service team. We send them on, but it's better if it comes from the people who are sending them. One more time, the email address. Service.change@rtd-denver.com. We can give it to your team here. And the airport bus, I spoke to the Rotary Club, the Boulder County Rotary, a couple of years ago, and it's kind of an older crowd. I asked if anybody had ever taken the airport bus, and I mean almost everybody had. It's a very popular bus, so if you can get people on it, they love it. I have people all income levels and ages that take that bus, so it's a good deal. We are facing some big decisions in the near future, where we're having to cut $215 million out of our budget, and it's about a $1.1 billion budget. It may be something less than that. Karen and I were talking about it today. We're doing better than we expected on this year's budget. I know that Cammie has looked into the changes that are being proposed for y'all, and she has a lot of detail on them. But right now, and I would say that I think staff came out with scenarios looking at 5% cut of service, 10%, 15, 17 and a half, and 20. All this news came out. You may have seen that RTD is cutting service 20%. I'll be shocked if the board goes to that. I think Karen and I are working on a 5% start, and I think there's money out there that suggests we should not go to a big number for now in terms of service cuts. As I said, my view is let's get our way to a 2028 ballot issue, and if people won't give us more money, unfortunately that will be what happens. But even at 5%, the LX is scheduled to be cut. And I would say, don't take these things completely seriously. What we have now are some suggestions, but you may hear this, so I don't want you to hear it for the first time after we're gone. The 323 also is on the list to be cut. I can't remember if that's even at 5% or if it's let's see. Yeah, it says it's duplicative. Your other routes, the routes within Longmont, the 324, the 326, and 327, are all doing pretty well. The least expensive of those routes, just to give you a taste, that RTD subsidizes $8.56 of every ride. That's not, I'm just telling you that is actually the 324. So, but the 323 is at $14.86. RTD fares don't pay it. Fares pay about 5% of our expenses right now. That's why we pay. Everybody's paying sales tax, and that's where the main amount of our money is coming from. So all of the rides are subsidized, and there is a list in the packet for tomorrow. I know you've seen it, Cammie, that says how much we would save by cutting certain routes. The flex rides are actually they're saving the Longmont flex ride, and I know you have this ride Longmont, so there'll be some question of what how much you need of each. But that I think you are very well served by your staff in terms of bringing the advice on those things. But yeah, we're very excited about the airport bus. I think, again, I worked on that, but Karen really deserves a lot of credit for pushing that through. She annoyed some staff and was able to really serve you well. I'll let you talk rail, and then we can.
Rail is always one of my favorite topics. Joan Peck and I, we've been working on trying to get rail up to Longmont for probably 15, 16, 17 years, but who's counting? Mm-hmm. So, in fact, that's one of the primary reasons why I'm back on the RTD board, because I used to serve, ironically, back in the 90s. But there's a lot of good things happening with Front Range Passenger Rail. And of course, RTD is partnering with Front Range Passenger Rail. And of course, our goal is to get it up to Longmont. Front Range Passenger Rail then is going to take it all the way up to Fort Collins. And you probably know it would eventually go down to Pueblo. So again, a lot of progress is being made. There's most likely going to be a ballot measure coming this November where they're going to be asking for a relatively small sales tax increase to build it out. So where we stand right now, we do have written agreements with Front Range Passenger Rail, which also includes CDOT partners and the governor's office. And so RTD has been working closely with all of these partners. And the RTD board is going to be making a major vote coming up most likely in December, and that will be the time that we're going to hopefully put money on the table, and at that point we can actually start doing a countdown. Let's put it that way. We appropriated funds to do preliminary engineering and design. The additional funds that we would be allocating at the end of this year would be for some of the construction that needs to go forward. We would be paying about half. The state is also putting in through CDOT quite a bit of money, at more than half. And then we're also figuring out in terms of how many trips a day. So if the measure in November does not pass, we would start service January 1st, 2029, and we would have 3 round trips a day. If it does pass, then we would have at least 10 round trips a day, and also some additional amenities, shall we say. We would be able to have newer rail cars, because right now they're talking about purchasing some used rail cars from California, and it'd be nice to get some new ones. Any way you look at it, though, it's going to be a very nice ride. It's also going to be a large commuter rail, very similar, quite frankly, to what you see on Burlington Northern on First and Main. Amtrak is going to be running it as it stands right now. Burlington Northern is actually going to be the company that's going to be building the rail. So at this point, it's going to be one track, but there's going to be at least 1.7 miles of siding so that freight and passenger rail can pass at the appropriate times. I will say the governor's office has done a wonderful job working with Burlington Northern to try to give us the right of way and try to figure out how much rent we would be paying to use their track. So there's a lot going on, good stuff. looking positive. And we hope that the measure, if placed on the ballot in November, will pass. As you know, Longmont is also doing a lot of work, great work, on the rail station at First and Main. So that's really important, and I would actually love to get more information about that. But RTD has granted Longmont, I think it's what, 16 million or so. Long story about that 16 million, but to build the parking garage, which is being planned right now, where there'll be a bus station inside on the first floor, where you can pick up different bus bays and then cars parked above. And then a short distance away will be the rail station, as well as a full transit-oriented development of that whole area. So I'm sure you've probably noticed as you've gone up and down Main Street, there's quite a few businesses that now have closed. There's a sign on the door that will say City of Longmont, no trespassing. So the city has been, along with other developers, my understanding, has been starting to invest in that area. And quite frankly, it sounds like it's going to be a wonderful plan. As you also know, Front Range Community College has plans now to build a building right next to the rail station. So that's, absolutely fantastic in my opinion. So that's going to link, keep in mind it'll link CSU, Front Range Community College in Larimer County, and then Longmont, and then CU, and then of course down to Denver higher ed institutions. So a lot of good things happening. And one more thing before we can switch a little bit from the rail issue. But the one thing I did want to also remind folks, I think most of you know what kinds of services RTD provides here. We've got a number of we've got FlexRide, and we've got a number of circulators around town, and of course, transportation to Boulder, Denver, Lafayette. But the other thing that I wanted to mention was sometimes we don't talk enough about it, is access on demand and Access-a-Ride for people with disabilities. And I just want to make sure that some of that information starts to get out, because we provide a lot of those services where it's door to door, and it's very important for people in our community that, again, you'd have to qualify. You have to go through an eligibility requirement through RTD, but once you're there, you can pick up and Access-a-Ride or access on demand, and you can basically go anywhere in the RTD district for a very minimal cost. So I just wanted to put in a plug for those services, paratransit, that we do. Very important for many of our customers, and I just want to make sure, that people who could qualify know about it. So any way that, again, the city, if you could market some of those services, that would be great. So with that, I don't know, is there anything else, unless you have some questions?
Yeah, I think let's see if we have some questions. The other thing that I've talked about some already is ridership, and talked about it in terms of Longmont. Our ridership overall is up 4.5% year over year to date, actually till a couple of months ago, and it's been such a struggle to bring it back from COVID that hopefully we will continue to do that and not have to cut too much service. So if you have questions, I think we're both happy to answer them. I saw the big bridge went up, if you haven't seen it, on 119 at 63rd. It's very cool. You saw that? Yeah. I also come from the bike industry, Amy, and moved to transit from that, but it was cool to see.
You may want to talk about the bolts and how
it's going to become the diagonal flyer, and I actually don't know the schedule at this point. So, but I think with the queue jumps and everything else they're doing on 119, should be good service.
And I should also add, the intersection that I use like all the time is Hover and Ken Pratt, and you probably now know there's a lot of construction that has just started. and it's probably going to be there for quite a while that whole diagonal is rebuilt and accommodate BRT.
Okay. So, one of the things that you guys mentioned is ridership. We're struggling to get it up.
Mm-hmm.
Something that I've noticed in my experiences is that most of our buses run very narrow spans of service. Like, yes, they start at like 6 a.m., but you can't stay out and get dinner on your way home. Some of the buses you can't even work a 9 to 5 in Boulder and transfer from Bolt.
Is that mostly the local?
Yeah, the
300s?
local routes.
Uh-huh.
And if we need, yes, the local routes serve as a fine feeder for the Bolt, but that is not, I think, a viable long-term strategy for transit. We can't just have feeder routes and expect them to succeed. They need to do some more than just feeder. But has there been any consideration in the past about increasing the span of service in Longmont in an attempt to convince people that it is a more useful service?
Yeah, I can speak to that. There have been many conversations over the years about trying to get extended service. At this point in time, because of our budget issues, increasing service is almost off the table. We're hoping to get that AL under the rug there before we start cutting some service. But I agree with you. That's always been a long time issue and discussion because, I used to work in Denver and I would take the bus. And yeah, after a certain time period, you wouldn't be able to go to a play or out to dinner in Denver if you wanted to and come back and have transportation.
Or to an RTD board meeting.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, yeah. They're really exciting. Come visit us. But in terms of some of the other service improvements, one, we have to get through our budget situation right now. But then it would be great to hear from the public to get more defined requests as to what routes you'd like to see extended.
Okay.
So.
And so then, while we were talking about service, or the interplay between service and budget, we just saw an increase in service on LD3 renamed 287. How does this budget situation affect that service increase?
The LD3. I'm just looking at the LD.
Yeah.
LD3 was renamed to 287.
Well, there's a lot of things
that's not
that.
the LX. Yeah.
No, it's not the LX. The LD is.
It says it's still below RTD's service standards.
It is, yeah, I also see, we do have a range of cuts, but let me first also say, once we saw the proposed cuts, we just got this information on Friday, okay? And so we're still going through it and distilling it. The LD is on a list. It wouldn't be some of the first things that would be reduced. And also this list that we have is just, let's put it this way, there's going to be a lot of discussion.
Right.
And we want transparency. We want the customers to chime in. We want mayors to talk to us. We need a lot of feedback because we need to hear from our customers. Clearly, we have to start finding savings and efficiencies. We're always trying to do that. But now there's added pressure to make sure that we find more savings. And so I would urge you to, pay close attention. It's going to take several months for the RTD board to come up with a final list, but also the list that you're going to see on if you look at one of our websites, is not the list that is going to be the final decision. So there's going to be a lot of discussion.
Yeah,
Just to clarify, board members too for TAB, if the list they're talking about is in RTD's board packet for the board meeting tomorrow night. So if you wanted to go see that board packet, that's where you'd find the list that they're referencing.
And I'll just reiterate what Karen was saying. I think, one problem we have is that when something everything's public, so when something comes out that RTD is considering, it becomes, stone in the press. RTD is going to go with a 20% service change. I think we'll both be very shocked if the board goes anywhere. Well, I shouldn't say anywhere close to that. There's some, but we're both pushing for a much lower, and I think that it will be lower. And then, you may see in the press that the LD and the LX and the 323 are up for the LD, not at any of the lower levels, but there are situations in which it would be discontinued. Nothing is written in stone. They will take whatever is suggested here. They'll put it out as a service change. There'll be lots of public comment, and that's where your letters come in and helpful. Yeah, I think just take whatever you see as early discussion.
Okay, and then one last question for you guys from me. RTD has quite a lot of land in the form of parking lots. Has there been any interest in finding a more revenue-generating use for that land?
Yes. The interest from us, interest from the legislature, what is ideal would be some transit-oriented developments. So we're building housing and urban spaces at the same time that we're creating new bus riders or train riders. And we have a couple of projects underway. We have to have people that are interested in those. But the board several years ago said we would prefer to lease property rather than sell it. I don't think we've changed a policy, but I think we're open to selling it at this point if that comes up.
And also probably the most visual one here in Longmont is on South Main, where we used to have a maintenance facility, and that building has been sitting empty now for a number of years. In fact, I should add, I just met Lauren Seeley just the other day, Longmont Housing Authority. It's now working for RTD. She's incredible. Is that right? I was impressed. And we were talking about that particular building on South Main, and to my surprise, she said, Karen, she said, there's a lot of interest in that building. And so that's all she told me. So it's sort of interesting. It's been sitting vacant for a number of years, but it is a prime piece of property. And we are actually looking to sell some of our excess property, of which we have quite a bit, to raise revenue for the budget. So.
All right, thank you. I think I'll hand it off now.
You can go to other tab members first if you want. I can play cleanup here.
Well, I guess thank you guys for coming. I think, Karen, you remember last year I kind of complained that no board member showed up, but you showed up because you were sick when the staff member showed up.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, I felt bad about that.
But I am curious just to hear a little bit of the background, because last year we were told by staff members that there is no viability for an airport bus. There wouldn't be the ridership, there wouldn't be et cetera, through their modeling. So I'm curious what changed.
Say one thing. They said it until they didn't, is just honestly, and I'll let Karen explain it. A big part of it was the Clean Transit Enterprise funding from the state that was required to go to new service, and they joined us in funding that.
Okay.
Yes, I'm glad you raised that issue. And I'm sorry that I wasn't there, because I probably would have said something different. I have always believed that, if we think we have a strong service need and we think there's going to be strong ridership associated with it, we can go to RTD management and lobby. And I nag our staff a lot.
Right.
And, you know,
Told you.
yeah, I consider it a skill set. Some don't, but, you know.
Well, I thank you.
Well, it's just, you know, you just keep mentioning it. Hey, don't forget Longmont. And so I'm glad, you know, that's unfortunate that they said that, because when I stopped to think, the AB does really well. And I was surprised to find how many Longmont folks actually go west to pick up the AB to go east to DIA. And I was so surprised to keep hearing people telling me about this. And I also know, because the city of Boulder, it's very expensive to live there. Longmont's not cheap though either. I just assume there are probably a lot of Boulder, Longmont residents that work in Boulder, that if they had their choice, they would choose to pick up, you know, airport ride here in Longmont as opposed to going back to Boulder. So anyway, I just think, again, it was public. The letters, they just kept coming and coming and coming. And the city has been very strong supporters. And it was on Nextdoor, you know, the social media effort that goes around. And so there was just so much push. And it looks like it's going to happen. But again, cross your fingers. We still have to get a vote on Wednesday and a vote on the 28th. I think it's going to happen. But watch out for that.
Thank you. And then just a little bit background. You know, I'm born and raised here in Longmont. And, you know, I remember a day in high school where there was a Denver bus every hour. During rush hour, it was every half hour.
Yeah.
You could even take it late. The only complicated day was a Sunday, when you had to go to Boulder, then to Longmont. You know, and since high school, a long time ago, 18 years ago or so, for me, you know, the district has grown in population, and in theory, more revenue has been acquired through that population. So what has changed in terms of,
well,
you know, obviously COVID, but I think that's a little.
COVID,
you know,
truly just knocked a lot of transit agencies.
But did that change revenue? Because
we did, because it just FYI, in 2019, prior to COVID, our fare revenue was about $159 million. This year, we're projecting $61 million. So you can see we've lost about 40% of our boardings. And we've added some service over that time.
But fare revenue is what percent of the budget?
Now,
Yeah.
it's about 4.7%, extremely low. From what I recall from when I served back in the 90s, it had to be more over 20%. And so service was cut back during COVID, and much of it was not been replaced yet. And so when I lobby our staff at RTD in Denver, you know, I always remind them, you know, when you were cutting, when they, that time, were cutting service because of COVID, much of it did come from the outlying areas, which includes Longmont and Broomfield and Lafayette. And so a fair amount of service was lost back then, because I used to take it to work all the time before I retired, right? And I didn't need a schedule, because you pretty much know, well, hey, if I miss this bus, I can catch one in 20 minutes. It's not quite that way that just yet, but be great to get back there.
And then curious, because you keep mentioning there's going to be a vote this November for rail for a tax increase, and then hopefully in 28 for RTD generally. How does RTD compare to other transit authorities in the country in terms of tax rate, or how revenue is?
Well, you can answer that if you'd like.
I'll just clarify one thing. The ballot issue this November is for front range passenger rail.
Yeah.
It's going to be an issue if we go front range passenger rail and RTD and Boulder County potentially going for transportation funding. in the next couple of years. I'm sorry, what was your question? How does RTD compare in terms
Yeah.
of taxes?
Because I remember this was 2 years ago, a staff member said RTD is the second most underfunded.
Set by
transit
the
authority?
state. Yeah,
Okay.
and there has been some progress. The state, is very broke too, but they have fees that they put in place that go into these enterprises, and one of them is the Clean Transit Enterprise. And recently, this last year, there was a negotiation where the oil and gas industry will be putting a certain amount of, it's a percentage based on their revenues into the Clean Transit Enterprise, and that's going to RTD and other transit agencies around the state. But right now, before that money, RTD was not really funded by the state, like you said, the second from bottom. I think, but some places that are funded by the state just get a piece of the tax money, don't get the sales. We have the sales and use tax that is 0.4% fast track, 0.6% base, which is you can kind of think of as the rubber tire service, and some of the accessoride and those sorts of things. So basically, it's a penny that goes to RTD at this point.
Yeah. Okay. And then kind of final comment is, especially in your discussions, I'm assuming you're talking to CDOT quite a bit, and this is more of a philosophical argument, and that this is where I want transit to be supported unilaterally across the board, but yet, I find it always funny when I have to vote for, rail, or I have to vote for an increase in transit tax, but yet I never got to vote for a increase in expansion of I-25 that cost billions of dollars. So I would like that philosophical argument to be presented to CDOT, because 7 Mile Stretch recently was $350 million. That could have been better used to build a train to actually protect that roadway and actually reduce traffic.
Or even, Floyd Hill is about $1 billion on I-70, which would pay for the whole system, pretty much the rail system. But, they've got their priorities too. And of course, they've got gas tax. Gas taxes are going down because there's so many electric cars. And I just received a text today that they're supposed to be reauthorizing the transportation bill this year. Usually they're, in 5-year increments. However, I've also been told by our federal lobbyists that primarily because it's an election year, a lot of the, congressmen, senators, congresspeople are probably going to defer writing a final bill until after the November election. So that might change a few things, but the text I received today is a bill is coming out and transit doesn't look good in it. So, you could probably guess that most of those dollars will be going to roads.
Yeah, so a very uneducated bill.
Yeah, and there's a ballot issue that maybe is likely, I think, at this point to be on the ballot in November that you may have heard about. It's being pushed by the Contractors Association, and it's requiring a certain amount, I can't remember how much, of the general fund that the...
Sales taxes on auto parts.
No, this is requiring a certain amount of money out of the general fund to be go to roads. And what that'll do is take that money away, a very limited amount of money away from K-12 education, Medicaid, all the other things that the general fund. I'm sorry, maybe I'm not sure what you're referring to.
It's Initiative 175. I would hope that maybe you'll be briefed on that once it's verified by the Secretary of State's office. My understanding, the way it would work is any sales tax paid to a car purchase, car parts, oil changes, things like that, any sales taxes related to a car would, instead of going to, Medicaid, education, those kinds of things, would be diverted to CDOT and roads. And so that would have an effect on the rest of state government.
All right, that's it for me. So thank you for all your hard work.
Thank you.
Thank you for attending our meeting. People in Longmont and people everywhere in Boulder County have been paying a sales and use tax for Northwest Rail for more than 20 years.
Yes.
And it's my understanding that what is left of that revenue is held in something called the Fast Tracks Internal Savings Account, correct? And it's something north of $200 million.
190.
190. So my question is, is that internal savings account money, is that earmarked for a particular purpose in Front Range passenger rail?
Yeah. Yes, I've been keeping track of how much Longmont has been putting into sending RTD for quite a few years. And that's just part of the FISA, we call it FISA, Fast Tracks Internal Savings Account. Right now, come December, when I mentioned we're going to be looking at actually putting money on the table to build Front Range Passenger Rail, Northwest Rail up to Longmont, that's where we're planning at this point the funding would come. And at this point, the state or the joint service has come to RTD, and they're asking for $156 million out of that fund. Now, we've already allocated about $5.8 million for the preliminary engineering and design. And at that point, come December, we would make a final appropriation to go and construct. However, yes, so the Longmont share of that tax, which has been going on since 2004, collected in 2005, starting in January, comes to over, just the Longmont share, comes to over $100 million. If you take a look at the communities all along the railroad, the tracks, the line, it would be probably about $650 million, probably getting close to $700 million that this area has paid to RTD for rail under Fast Tracks. Now, much of that money does go to pay off bonds, like for this coming year, the year we're in. Our debt, our Fast Tracks debt, is about $250–60 million, and so that's where. So the Fast Tracks dollars that are being collected from this area are clearly going to build and fund and continue the other rail lines in the region. So it is our turn, believe me. And we can thank Mayor Peck for really pushing this issue. She has really put a lot of work into making that rail line actually happen. And we can also thank our current governor for making rail a top priority. You may disagree with him on other issues, but boy, when it comes to rail, if he wasn't there, this line probably wouldn't be almost ready to happen.
And we can thank his former chief of staff, Lisa Kaufman, who has done a brilliant job negotiating with BNSF. And our CEO has been part of that too, but the state has really made it possible to look at this. And the statute that said prioritize Northwest Rail also said prioritize the end line that is farther east and goes up roughly I-25 area. So there's a lot of people needing that money, but it's good we have it saved. It's a start.
So did you say that the FISA funds will only be used on what used to be called the Northwest Rail portion of the overall Front Range passenger rail, or will it be mixed in with the entire project budget?
Well, the initial start is referred to as joint service, and there's a joint service executive committee that's CDOT and CTIO, which is part of CDOT, the Clean Transit Enterprise. Actually, I'm not sure if they're the governor's office and RTD. And the initial one is Union Station up to Fort Collins. RTD has no authority or responsibility for train from Longmont to Fort Collins. So what I think Karen was saying was that money, RTD's money, can only go to Union Station to Longmont, and then the state and others will be funding the rest.
Okay, so it's just from Union Station to Longmont. And would that be used for consultant fees and right-of-way acquisition and construction costs and sidings
Yeah,
and
primarily
everything?
construction costs at this point. Also, I should also mention the N line, which is in Adams County, so it goes from Denver through Commerce City, North Glen, and then it's now up to Thornton. They've got 2 more stations that need to be built. In fact, I just had a tour on Thursday to see where the 2 stations would be. And so it's going to be east of I-25, right around 144th, and then farther north at about 162nd. And so some FISA money will be used to start that project, but then we're going to also have to work with CDOT and find some other revenue sources to actually finish the completion. So we're hopefully going to vote, I think this month, to start their preliminary engineering studies to find out how much it's going to cost to do those 2 rail stations.
Will the FISA money be used to make improvements like curve modifications and siding construction and physical improvements to the Burlington Northern's facility? Now, so will Burlington Northern own those facilities once they've been constructed?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Like a siding or improvements to curves or various structures?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm not sure. We have just put up an additional $5 million to get from the 30% design that we had done before to 90% design, and I think that there are still some things to be worked out. That could be worked out. I'm not sure the answer to that. Are you?
You know, I also believe that that's part of the rent we're paying Burlington Northern for use of their tracks. So that's where a lot of the negotiation was. Who's going to be, liable in all kinds of insurance coverages, the actual track construction, 1 track, 2 tracks. Are you going to have wooden ties or concrete ties? So there's a lot of improvements that particular rail line would need. But you do ask a good question, and I will follow up on that.
Well, here's my follow-up question.
Yeah.
Let's say that the FISA monies are spent on physical improvements to the Burlington Northern system. And I hope it doesn't happen, but what if the Burlington Northern at some future date decided that it's more profitable for them to haul something else than to haul passengers, and Front Range Passenger Rail doesn't happen? Will Burlington Northern refund the money that's been spent on their facilities to the FISA account?
The negotiations that are going on with Burlington Northern, I think they're pretty much wrapped up. It's a long-term contract. I think it's for 30 years.
I thought it was 50.
50, could be 50. So whatever contract they're going to sign with us, with the folks here in Colorado, would hold them to it for decades.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And has that been signed, or is that yet to come?
It's not been signed
We just
yet.
got a term. We have a term sheet that we basically voted. RTD board and the CDOT board and a couple of others that are involved, the CTIO, have all said, carry on. Take this to 90% design. Come back to us with real. I think those numbers are going to prove to be pretty good. They've worked very hard on them, but to get to 90% design, and they'll be answering a lot of questions, I think, about the sightings and things like that. Come back to us with those in November or December, and no, the answer is the contract has not been signed, but a term sheet has been approved and said move forward. So could still change, but we're on a good track.
So to speak.
Could, so to speak, yeah.
All right, thanks very much. That's it for me.
Yeah, now for something a little different. Is there any progress on this park and ride up at the Walmart there at 60 northeast corner quadrant of 66 and 287. I think it's called the Park.
Yeah. Do you have that?
Maybe that's a city question.
I can
yeah.
help with that. Yeah, the Park Ridge Station is what's
Park
being
Ridge,
referred
that's
to.
what I was
Yes.
thinking. Yeah.
So it went to P&Z last month where they approved the annexation to be able to allow it to happen. That will go to council. I believe it's slated in August. Once the annexation happens, then they bring forward the actual project. So it's all in progress and moving forward through the standard steps to get through the city's review process. So the annexation had to happen first, and then project design and project details will come forward after
Oh,
that.
so it hadn't been designed yet? or
No, there's
it
been preliminary.
Been preliminary, 90?
Yeah. So now it's just a matter of make sure the land use aligns with the project. So with the project pieces will now be able to move forward since the annexation is now official.
Okay.
Well, it'll be official once council approves it when it comes up to their agenda. But P&Z has approved it, the
Okay.
Planning and Zoning Commission.
Planning and zoning, good.
Yeah.
Thanks. And then I guess you were saying the ridership is increased 5%?
4.4, 4.5, something like
Is,
through the end of April. Yeah.
Okay. Are there, I guess, newer innovative strategies being considered for trying to continue to boost the ridership then? Or what are those strategies? Or how effective are the ones that, they had been using?
I'll start and let Karen add. Our biggest problem right now is saving the service and trying to get in a position to add more service. One thing that we haven't mentioned is that we have started a new comprehensive operational analysis, and we have a consultant that's working on what that looks at as the whole system, and they're going to be coming back to the board and saying, they're kind of these two competing priorities: frequency, which really builds ridership, and coverage, because we got a big area with 2,342 square miles, I think. Somebody just told me the country of Monaco is 2 square miles. It's like, that's a very tiny place. But, this board is very focused on ridership. We're going to be doing a strategic plan as well as the COA. And, that is a big issue. At the same time, we're balancing the needs of a lot of smaller places and places, at sort of the areas, different areas around the district. So,
yeah, I'd also like to suggest, we've raised the issue about putting together a ridership plan where we're going to get the community involved, ask for suggestions on how to get more people to come back to RTD, because we used to have 116 million boardings a year. Now we're down to 65, and so the other issue, quite frankly, is we have capacity on the service that we have right now, and so I would love to see a ridership marketing effort to go forward, but I've raised it with a number of folks, and of course it's always right now it's a money issue. But there's so many creative things that we could be doing to try to get people to come back to RTD. I've talked to a number of folks that, oh yeah, I used to ride RTD all the time. COVID hit, a lot of changes occurred, and they haven't come back to us. And we want those paying customers to come back.
Thank you.
Lynn and Karen, thank you so much for coming. A lot of folks already asked questions that I had, so I'll keep this super brief here, but really appreciate your advocacy in multiple ways. I think it's fair to say some of the updates that you guys were sharing tonight probably wouldn't have made the progress that they have on the pace that they have or at all without your advocacy. So truly, truly appreciate that. Could not be more excited about the likely prospect of the Skyride coming here, the AL route. Lynn, I appreciate you sharing the email there and the suggestions. Is email advocacy the most appreciated and helpful from RTD board members? and or like what type of presence for the July 28th meeting would do you think would complement your advocacy efforts?
Well, first of all, Councilmember Popkin, thank you so much for your support. I know you're a big transit advocate, and we definitely appreciate that, because if we didn't have a couple of members on our council really pushing these issues, it wouldn't happen. And also some kudos to your city manager. He has been very instrumental in the accountability committee. Longmont has definitely had a place within RTD these days. In terms of the most effective communication, first of all, I would ask that see what happens at the operations committee on Wednesday.
Sure.
But actual presentation, I don't know, I think everybody sees some. You're an elected official, so you tell me what kinds of things would sway your vote. Because I know for me, sometimes it's not an email because you get a lot of them, right? Sometimes it's an elected official, making a phone call or coming down to personally testify. But I also know you've got council meetings on Tuesdays. So there's always that conflict. So many city council meetings are on Tuesdays. We're last Tuesday of the month, although we have a lot of other meetings in between. But yeah, I think it's that personal touch.
Sure.
Where you're trying to reach out, and because otherwise you do get a lot of emails, and I hate to say it, but sometimes you'll read them and then you set them aside. But when you're sitting at a meeting, as you know, when somebody comes here to public invited to be heard, I'm sure there have been quite a few folks that have made good arguments that may sway a vote on how you may vote that night. So you're welcome to come down, though.
Fair enough. When is the public comment period usually in the meetings live? Is that at the beginning?
It's at the beginning, yeah. There may be a couple little things, but mostly we just take the short things, and then it's the public comment meeting. I also, I agree with Karen, but I also think a letter from the mayor and city council can be an effective. If you get the Northwest mayors and commissioners, I don't know if they would weigh in on the airport bus, but I think a letter can be helpful if it's from the elected officials. So.
Great. Thank you. I think one of the things that sometimes people forget about Longmont, and I know the two of you certainly know this, but share as a reminder is, and I've talked to some RTD folks who don't fully appreciate that Longmont's now 100,000 people. Yes. And people don't really appreciate the size that Longmont is from a population standpoint.
Right.
We're, basically tied with Boulder now for, 2 population hubs in Boulder County. Yeah. And we're the northern end of that RTD line. So I hope people on the board keep that in mind, and also remember that this kind of route actually takes cars off the road because people are getting out of their car to hop on a bus. I think the other thing that when we think about the route timing, I know that's always a puzzle when you're trying to make sure that people can conveniently get to their destination, but also you serve as many stops as possible, and it's an optimization equation. I think hopefully, even if this is a longer route, even if it might be an hour and a half from when you might get on in Longmont to when you get off at the airport, you're getting off right at the airport.
That's right.
Right? You're not getting off at a parking lot. You don't have to hop on a rental, like another shuttle to get you somewhere. You're getting right off there, and you walk up, you take the escalator, you take the elevator, you walk up the escalator, whatever you want to do to get right to the terminal there. So you don't have that anywhere from like 10 to 20 minute kind of delay from getting out of your car and there. Yeah. So it really does drop you right where you need to be.
That's right.
And also, I may add, you don't have to pay $20 a day for parking.
I wasn't. You took the price tag right out of my mouth there. Yeah. So thank you. Yeah, you don't have to pay anything for the parking there because you're just paying the flat fee, $10 each way if you're a regular adult there. So that's super exciting. Thank you not only for that, but also for the funding for Ride Longmont, which, in case folks don't know, was $1 million from RTD currently for the 3-year pilot program, and for the First and Main Transit Station garage and bus bay there. Yeah. That's another $16.5 million right there. So we appreciate RTD actually investing in Longmont now, and that's really exciting to see. The last thing I'll leave you with is, and I'll try to write to some folks about this, but when I was going door to door during the campaign last fall, this was one of 2 questions I reliably asked every person I tried that would give me the light of day at the door was how often would they ride a bus to the airport? Not whether they would, but how often. And the results of the over 70% of the constituents I surveyed door to door would use a bus to the airport at least 6 times per year.
Yeah.
And that use was either them personally or their family members or people visiting them. Right. And I think people forget that, like, I just dropped a friend off at the airport yesterday, and that was 45 minutes each way of driving them there because my wife and I were kind and wanted to take them there. But now we'll take them to the bus and leave them there. So exactly. So really appreciate that. I hope people will keep in mind not only our population size, but also kind of the opportunities that this really does present to get cars off the road and make travel more convenient in the area. Thank you.
I think every piece of the district should have an airport bus. It may gather a lot of people from a different place, but it's such a critical service. I think it's important. Thank you. Right.
Gina, before we move on to the next topic, we do need to enter into record the process you all took to write your letter of support to RTD.
I was just going to mention it, actually.
There we go. Okay. So again, I just want to double down on the thanks for our 2 RTD commissioners. I hope
I
the
actually
rest
have questions.
Oh, you have
Before they
questions.
leave.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry. I haven't had
sorry.
a chance to talk yet. But it's okay. You go ahead, Cami.
Okay, this discussion just is going longer, so we just want to make sure that we're aware of time for the other agenda items, but please finish your RTD questions while we have our directors here.
So sorry. I was just letting everyone else talk before I had my
problem.
questions. So a couple of questions just for Longmont residents to be aware. Do you have an idea of where the stop would be for the new AL service? Is there going to be more than one stop in Longmont, just one?
It's going to be 8th and Kaufman.
Okay.
Now, you make a question. What we do for our park and rides, that where we know somebody's going to be parking for more than 24 hours, we charge a $2 a day fee. But since the city, I believe the city owns that parking lot.
Correct.
Okay, so you may hear RTD knocking at your door saying, "Would you mind if we put up a fee kiosk, and we could talk about sharing revenue?"
That was going to be my next question, was about that, because I have taken the AB for many years now.
Great.
Yeah, as of everyone that I know goes down either to Boulder or down to the Flatiron stop because it's straight down 287 for us. And yeah, I've paid that $2.25
Good, thank you.
to park there.
That's great.
Not because there's no bus to get to the Flatirons from Longmont, so had no choice but to park there. Anyway, I wanted to ask about the change in or potential changes you're having from the budget. I just looked it up, and it looks like LX is on the chopping block, like at every level. Now, we just got that service back.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really kind of disappointing from Longmont's point of view. Like, we've literally been asking this for years since COVID, because that service was cut. And now you're going to probably drop it again.
Well, this is, I had this discussion with our COO today over lunch. Friday's his last day. And I said, would you consider changing the route, but still have the LX, the old LX, okay, started in Longmont, down 287, stopped at Lafayette Park and Ride, and then got on US 36 into Denver. Because right now, as you know then, the 287 is just going up and down between Longmont and Broomfield. You have to transfer to get to Denver. So I asked him if he would consider, of course he's leaving, but I will raise this to the next person, keeping the LX, but maybe combining it with, sort of the old LD, the 287, but the 287, would continue. So I think we've got, maybe 4 trips in the morning on the LX to merge it, change the route, and maybe we could drop some of the 287 routes or trips, but move it so that if someone from Longmont got on and your goal was Denver, it would take you right to Union Station. So keep an eye on that. That's something that I will definitely be watching, and I know Lynn will too. And hopefully we can sort of combine the service and make it, well, higher ridership. Because quite frankly, if the LX is starting in Longmont and we stop at Niwot, okay, and then you go down 52 to I-25, you're not picking up a lot of passengers. And so that's why I do think a route change would help us with ridership numbers. But it'd be nice also to get on a bus and go right to Denver.
It would. Right now, there's only 4 trips a day.
Right.
So, I mean, it's not really any wonder that it's not high ridership. It used to be every hour.
Right.
Yes.
At the lowest time.
Yes.
And now we've got 4 a day.
Yes.
So it's not, I mean, it's not something I would be looking at, be like, oh, is my timing going to magically time up with that 4 routes? Because 5:30 p.m. is the last one. So if you're going to an evening performance or something in Denver, you cannot use that route.
Yeah.
Yeah. So right now, I mean, it's great that we have it back, but that's probably a good reason why ridership is low, because there's just not enough buses, which...
Yes. Frequency.
Frequency. Yeah, exactly. And then I had a couple more questions. I'm sorry, I know you...
No.
So I know you talked about the new ballot measure for Front Range. Because Longmont has been paying in for so long into fast tracks, would we be exempt from that ballot measure because we have already put in so much more than every other district, especially the route going up to Fort Collins? They've put in $0 so far.
Yes. You're asking a Joan Peck question that she's been asking for years. No, and here's why. So if the ballot measure, say, does not pass, we will still get rail, but 3 round trips a day. Okay, so that is the share of our fast tracks payment, to bring the train up to Longmont, and then of course it would turn around and, well, it would, I think it would still go up to Fort Collins. It would, but they'd be using CDOT, some other dollars to do that. So if the other tax passes, the Front Range passenger rail tax, that's where it gets expanded into 10 trips or more, some additional siding, newer cars, better platforms, better stations, because right now the only thing that RTD would be paying the city of Longmont, or we would be building, are just the train platforms, no amenities, no nothing. So there would be a lot of enhancements and additional trips if the measure passes. But you do ask a very important question.
Yeah, I mean, essentially Fort Collins is getting it for free. I mean, obviously not from CDOT and stuff, but compared to Longmont residents, if that ballot measure doesn't pass, they still get a train, but we've paid for it extra beyond any of the northern communities, beyond RTD's borders.
No, you're right.
So it doesn't seem very equitable in terms of funding. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I would just say that all the other cities going up, it's true. Fort Collins is not in the district, and I just think that, but all the other cities between Union Station and here have been paying as well, and you just can't do it without more funding. And I think Karen's right; you get more for the service. So,
and also you remind me, Front Range Passenger Rail, I know, is also approaching all of the cities that are along the line with some promise of additional funding for, I don't know, is it 10 years or 20 years? And I know the last time I talked to our city manager, they were talking about taking those dollars, and I'm sure Councilmember Popkin probably knows the answer to this. Those additional dollars that would come every year from Front Range Passenger Rail would be put into your station, or or if you wanted some additional bus service, you could be very flexible dollars, but it would be coming from that tax to, we really want to make sure those rail stations, have population centers so that rail can be used to its maximum benefit. So there would be some other benefits for the city and for the residents.
Okay.
And just so Tab knows, there's an upcoming open house on rail. Another one is going to be hosted at Front Range Community College at the end of July. Sorry, off the top of my head, I can't remember, but I'll send you all the information and we'll make sure you have it. But that will be the next open house with all the staff from all of the agencies present to ask them direct questions, because I don't know that Karen and Lynn are the best to answer all of the Front Range passenger rail specific questions, though they are more in the loop than probably any of us in the room. But just keep that in mind. There'll be other opportunities to ask the rest of the group, the state and CDOT, who are coming together. So there's more open town halls coming up specific to rail.
And those are very informative. They're very good.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
Go ahead.
I also am serving on the Transit Planning Committee for Boulder County, which I'm obviously happy to do. And so one of the things that's come up in those discussions when we've been talking about why people have not returned back to using transit is the mismatch between when people are now traveling and the buses that are available. So a lot of the buses are based on the idea that people are commuting to work. But that's simply just not really true anymore. Like there's much more of a level use across the whole day because people are working different hours and, there's a lot of different reasons. But yet the bus routes just haven't caught up with that change in use and change in need, really, for people to use a bus. And that was something that we have talked about a good amount during that committee, was that change in use.
That's the big driving reason. Well, our current system optimization plan will expire in 2027, but we have started a new comprehensive operation analysis, and it looks at all of that. They'll be using cell phone data about where people move and when they move, and I think that we will be less downtown Denver centric, and I expect that we will be less peak hour centric. That it will even out more through the day, and that will be going into early next year. We're going to start seeing it, I think, but it won't be going into effect until later next year.
So just the COA is going to be an 18-month process that starts next year with RTD. You all will be brought forward things as they expect, right?
It started. It's 18-month process, but we are underway.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
So-
got kicked off.
Yeah.
But one other thing I wanted to mention, I do think a lot of our ridership issues does go back to the 16th Street Mall. And if you were down in Denver, even a year or so ago, all this construction going on. First there was COVID, then the city and county of Denver just sort of dug up the 16th Street Mall, redid, water sewer lines, and a lot of people just left. They said, yeah, I can work at home. The 16th Street Mall finally is now there, fixed, but a lot of companies have not called their folks back to work right there just yet. But they're starting, and so I think you are starting to see a shift. And I just heard just the other day the DDDA, Denver Downtown Development Authority, with the mayor, just announced that they're going to be investing like $100 million into that core part of the city to try to create more jobs. So it's going to start to flip. It may take a while.
Okay. What was I going to say? I totally forgot what I was going to say. Oh my goodness. I'm so sorry. We have another comment. I will pass it over and then hopefully I'll remember my question.
Oh, I was gonna say that Front Range Passenger Rail open house is next Thursday at the Front Range Community College.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Thank you. Thank you for looking that up.
I've been to a couple, but I didn't know about that one.
Okay, any other?
Well, thank you, directors, for coming.
You.
Yes, I was saying, I
Thank
hope
you.
all of the other areas have directors who advocate as strongly as ours do for our local service areas. These two women are very smart and have worked very hard for a very long time advocating for Longmont. So thank you.
Great constituents.
There we go. Yes.
Yes, and thank you for your interest. I mean,
Yeah.
we love talking about this stuff. So, thank you.
So while they're packing up, I just need to enter into record your tab letter process. Since last month's service change, proposed service changes by Lynn, thank you so much. There was not time to bring that forward to this meeting. We did it via email. So for public record, what we did was ask all of the board members to vote anonymously. So they did not vote and respond to each other. They voted and sent their responses just to Stephanie and myself. One, to say, do you want to send a letter of support to RTD around the proposed service changes? That was a unanimous vote. Everybody did say yes. And then it was open to, do you have any suggestions to a draft letter? We received one set of draft changes from tab member Palmino, and no one chimed in that they didn't agree with them. So we went ahead and accepted those letters, and then turned in the letter on your behalf to the email that Director Banker was mentioning, service changes at RTD. That's where it was officially submitted. So we'll make sure that gets entered into the meeting notes for this meeting as well. But just to make sure it was transparent to how you all came about to writing your letter, that you all agreed to write it, we drafted it, it was approved, and then submitted on your behalf by staff. So thank you, Tab, for submitting that letter of support to RTD. So just time check, I know we have about 20 minutes, 15 minutes left. We have one presentation from Ben and then 3 quick updates. So Ben, we're gonna have to maybe get through this pretty quick if we can. We said 15 minutes, but I don't know if we can do it in quicker than that, that would be good.
All right, I'll try to knock it out.
There we go.
My name is Ben Ortiz, Transportation Planner. Thanks for having me this evening. Tonight, we're going to be reviewing the Planning and Zoning Commission recommendations for the short-term bicycle parking. See if I can figure out how to use this now. Okay, what happened here? It's not working. All right, I'll come up here. Pardon me. We presented to the Planning and Zoning Commission on May 27th. And the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval with conditions as reflected in the Planning and Zoning Resolution 2026-14-B, which is to approve with conditions. The vote by the Planning and Zoning to approve with conditions was unanimous at 7-0. But what exactly mean? And essentially, they recommended 4 separate policy changes. And the first was that cargo bike parking requirement seemed too onerous and should be relaxed. They felt that the outside dimensions of covered bike parking needed to include length and width, and that presently, or at least under the current language, only the width is provided. In addition, the covered bike parking requirement they felt was too onerous for smaller developments, and they felt that that should be relaxed. Then they also recommended that the requirement that bike parking must be within 100 feet of the land uses they serve and installed near building entrances requires further clarification with respect to developments with multiple entrances. And that included attached and detached housing developments like mobile home parks and multifamily developments. And then lastly, they recommended to eliminate the requirement for bike parking at short-term rentals. And all of this is probably not new to you based on my presentation last time. So going over the very first recommendation, what you see here is the verbatim changes that we made. And so I'll read it as follows. Bike parking location. For convenience and security, bicycle parking facilities shall be located no further than 100 feet away from the primary access points or to an outdoor destination. shall be visible from the interior of the land uses they serve, shall not be located in obscure, remote, or hidden areas. For multifamily developments, at least one bicycle rack shall be located at each building near primary access points. For attached single-family or mobile home parks without garages, bike parking may be clustered into one or more areas, provided that the areas are easily accessible and highly visible to the residents they serve. And just so you know, we did vet this language internally amongst other staff, so this isn't just me talking.
I would suggest see if they have any edits one by one, and then just move through.
We'll burn through our 15 minutes if we do it that way. Rather instantly, in fact. Section 7 is amended to read, building overhangs and awnings and shelter rooftops shall be a minimum of 11 feet in width. The length of the overhangs, awnings, and shelters shall be the length of the row of bicycle parking racks that they are intended to protect, plus a minimum of 4 feet of coverage for both ends of the bicycle parking row. A minimum clear distance of 4 feet from all outside edges of inverted U racks shall be maintained. Developments with less than 5,000 square feet of building area are exempt from this requirement. So as many of you know, I've done development review. I did it for about a dozen years. And I just wanted to clarify where this 5,000 feet came from. Number one, I've seen very few developments that are smaller than 5,000 square feet. One example would be the Moe's Bagels on Main Street. But there haven't been too many other than that. And just to give you an example of what 5,000 feet looks like, the McDonald's at Ken Pratt in Maine is slightly over, it's 5,000 square feet and change. So that's about what we're talking about in terms of the smallness size. So, and again, as I mentioned, I haven't seen a whole lot of new development, whether that be commercial or multifamily, that's smaller than 5,000 square feet. Section 9 was amended to read as follows. Cargo bike parking. For every 30 short-term bicycle parking spaces, 15 inverted U racks, provided at least one cargo bike parking rack designed to accommodate cargo bikes shall be required, but no less than one cargo bike rack per development equal to or in excess of 5,000 square feet of building area. Developments with less than 5,000 square feet of building area are exempt from this requirement. And then lastly, they recommended eliminating the short-term rental requirement, which shows up in the parking table. So the next steps, we're proposing, or the TAB may propose, some minor text corrections. We will be creating a graphic to go along with the building overhang requirement. We found that it was hard to visualize what that would look like. And so we're going to create a graphic that will go with the ordinance. And then lastly, we're tentatively scheduled to go to City Council in September, or we are on the agenda. But, you know, as the agenda gets full, it may get pushed, but we're going to do our best to make it up there in September. And so that's it. If you have any recommendations on any of the proposed language, we would welcome it now, and we will try and consider incorporating those changes into the final Planning and Zoning resolution, which they need to, Planning and Zoning Commission chairperson would need to sign, and then that would go, that would be an attachment to the City Council communication and the ordinance. Now, the City Council may choose to ignore the recommendations of Planning and Zoning Commission, or they may choose to incorporate all or some of them. That is entirely up to them. So with that, I'd be happy to take your questions.
Just before everyone starts talking, I just want to be mindful of the time that we are at 10 to 8. So if you can keep your suggestions and comments.
And I think just to clarify, we really are asking for text corrections. Yeah. We can't change the language at this point since this is what P&Z has approved. Mm-hmm. So we're not open for new changes in any way, just minor adjustments. Do you think that either fix something or clarify something?
Ben, can you go to your second to last slide? Okay, first word of the third line is now reading provided. Should that be provide?
Yes.
Without the D?
Yes.
It's like a directive.
Right.
Okay, that's it for me.
Anyone else with any minor changes or minor text changes, I should say?
Section 9. Section 9.
I do have a clarifying question for you, Ben.
Okay.
For the short-term properties, short-term rentals, is there a plan to come and look at this at a later time for a different ordinance?
I'm not exactly sure what you mean.
So they were taken out, the short-term
Oh, I see what you're saying.
short-term
Yeah.
parking.
Yeah. Well, again, it would be up to the city council to make the determine whether that should stay in or whether or not should be removed. As you know, it was my contention that it should stay in because the short-term rentals may be used by people doing bike tours, and that the owners may not want bikes inside their unit. And so given that, it would give the cyclist an opportunity to have a secure place to park their bike. Planning and Zoning Commission didn't see it that way. So again, City Council may choose to enact that or ignore it.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Any other suggestions? Okay, so I think we probably have to motion now. Is that correct, to move forward with the text?
Great. Thank you.
Does anyone have a motion to accept the changes as written, apart from that one text correction, and move it to council for recommendation?
A motion that we accept the amended recommendations and send this forward to council.
Do we have a second?
I second the motion.
Everyone in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
And then Ben, do you want to just stay up and give your quick bike to work day update? And then we'll close it. Yeah, then we got two more after that.
Sorry. Not here. Oh, got it. Okay. That. Okay. Okay. Right. Thank you. Okay. All right. Thank you. Thanks, Kaylee. So this is going to be a brief Bike to Work Day update. And thanks for hearing me again. Don't know which button to push here. Okay. So by way of background, so the Bike to Work Day in the Denver metro region is organized by the Denver Regional Council of Governments. And it's individual businesses or organizations that actually host stations. The city of Longmont, we've hosted stations since as far back as the early 2000s. As far as I know, I believe that Bike to Work Day has dated back at least to 1990, when Dr. Cog first began organizing that event. But I'm not, I showed up in the city in 2002. I couldn't find any history earlier than that that shows that the city of Longmont did or hosted Bike to Work Day breakfast stations in the 90s. So this year, transportation planning, as in many years past, was the city station organizer. We had our station over here at the Civic Center station, and we were hoping that we'd have a good turnout, and we did. And so we do strive to make this a zero waste event every year, and we provide washable plates, washable cups, washable silverware, as well as washable napkins. And after I put in a full 8-hour day here, I take everything home and I put my dishwasher and washing machine to work. And so this year's event, it took place on Wednesday, June 24th from 7 to 9 a.m. So for the past several years, we've had the Longmont Lions Club griddle pancakes and sausages for us. And they're a big hit because they make great pancakes and they know how to griddle sausages, and their volunteers really do appreciate it. We also have had the Longmont Bicycle Company provide free technical support on behalf of the riders. The one thing that they see most often, I think, are flats, where they'll just switch out one tube for another. Sometimes they have issues with brake derailleurs, adjustments, or other technical issues that they help with. But that's a great addition to our station. The past couple of years, we've had a Ride Longmont vehicle and driver appear at the events. They also appeared at our Winter Bike to Work Day station, and they offer some demonstrations on how to load a bike onto the van's bike rack, and they provide a brief overview of the service by yelling very loudly to the crowd. So we've had some various businesses and nonprofits and city departments attend the event. And they've conducted outreach, and this has kind of created a festival-like vibe or atmosphere. And that's really Kaylee's idea. She came up with this idea of doing a superstation, and I think it was a great addition to the Bike to Work Day event. So I think these next 3 slides to me are the most exciting part. So back in 2024, we had 93 riders sign into the station. We did not begin manual counts that year, where a person with a clicker would count riders as they came in. And if a rider came in with, say, 2 kids and a cargo bike, we would count that as 3 individuals visiting the station. 2024 was the first year of prize giveaways, which the riders really seemed to enjoy. And these are nice prizes like locks and bells and lights, that sort of thing. And it was also the first year where we required people to sign in order to get a plate for food. Because in years past, we had people just bypassing the sign-in station and going straight for the pancakes. And so now if you want to have pancakes, you need, unless you're going to eat it with your hands, and no one's going to do that, you need a plate first. So the incentive is that if you want to participate in the prize giveaway or to get a plate for food, you have to sign in. So next year's, I feel like the 2025 numbers are a reflection of this change. So in 2025, we had 138 riders sign in, and it was also the first year we did manual counts of visitors. And that year, last year, we had 165 riders counted. Now, this idea, again, was Kaylee's, where we should take a manual count and to see, what the discrepancy is between the sign-in, those who signed in, and those who just came to the event. It was our second year of prize giveaways. And again, it was the second year where we're requiring people to sign in order to get a plate for food or to be eligible to win a prize. And then this year, we had 160 riders sign in. And the manual count went up to about 190, but we expect that the number was somewhat higher than that. Maybe not significantly so, but definitely higher. We think the number was over 200 riders this year. The problem was we had people coming in, so many people coming in from different directions that are the person doing the manual count, they couldn't really keep up. And so then this was the third year of prize giveaways. And again, the third year where signing in is required to get a plate for food or to win a prize. And so we feel like that's a really good addition to this event. And so we're going to continue doing that in the future. And that's my presentation. Thank you for listening. Appreciate it. And have a good evening. I'll take any comments if you want.
Well, since I was there, it was a good event. It's the first time I've actually ever been, which is kind of strange since I bike every day. But it's very early in the morning. But it was a good event. I thought I had some good conversations with people from my working hat that I was wearing at the time. So I thought it was good. Any other comments?
I don't know why I completely slept through it, but I missed it somehow. Oh, sorry. I forgot about the red. I thought that I was going to attend, but somehow it went by me. But I'm so happy to hear about the bigger numbers, and I think that's awesome. So it makes me really happy. Yeah, it's a great event. I love it. Yeah, so.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Okay, great. Good evening. Kaylee Fallon, Transportation Planner. I am here with an exciting update to our regional e-bike share program. So for our new members, or if you just need a refresher, at last month's TAB meeting, I gave an in-depth presentation on our regional e-bike share program. So I would reference that for more information. But our update for tonight is that we are on our way to getting the docking stations and the bikes installed on the ground. So B-Cycle has submitted the appropriate permits that they need in order to do so. Those permits are being reviewed by our engineering staff. I believe B-Cycle just has to submit a few more items or a little bit more paperwork. And then if everything goes well and they have those permits approved and in hand this week, we are expecting that those docking stations will be installed this week. And then they will start with the install of the docking stations, which, if you'll recall, are those inverted U-racks. And then tentatively, they will go and install bikes the next week of the 20th. And then we're looking at the week of the 27th as the bikes being available to the public to ride. Again, this just really depends on the permit approval process. So that timeline may be delayed by a week or so. So we could be looking at like the first week of August, the August 3rd week, or a little bit after that for public use. But really the update here is that the permit process is underway and we're looking at installation here in the next few weeks. And then we are starting with 6 locations. These locations have been vetted through collaboration with other city departments, with our external partners, with the vendor B-Cycle, and we do have some requirements as per our IGA with the state on where those stations need to go. But the stations will start off at 8th and Kaufman, at 6th and Kaufman, in front of the Library and Civic Center, in front of the Rec Center, and then near Hover and 119, not where the construction will be on the east side, but on the west side. So yeah, we're very, very excited that this is now becoming a reality and that we will have bikes on the ground here by August. So that is the update, and happy to take any questions or comments.
Thank you, Kaylee. This is very exciting. Just curious if, to hopefully grow this in the future, if Visit Longmont or LADP would be involved in conversations, because there's also an economic advantage.
Yeah, absolutely. We're not there yet in this process, but
Yeah.
can definitely consider that.
Cool. And then Councillor Popkin, I'll still think about how we can make developments encourage this as well.
I may have missed this from last month's meeting, but are these interoperable with the bikes in Boulder as well?
Excellent.
Yes, they are. You can take a bike from Longmont to Boulder and vice versa. You'll also be able to take a bike to our other partner municipalities once they have their infrastructure installed. So that includes Boulder County, the town of Superior, the town or city of Westminster, Lafayette, and I think who else am I missing? I should know this. But it includes all of our regional partners as well. So once they have infrastructure on the ground, you'll be able to take a bike to and fro.
Amazing. This is fantastic news.
Just as a reminder, this is grant funded to get starting, which is also why the private partnerships will come a little bit later. We got to get the grant up and running and kind of deal with income versus no income, and then we'll work on growing the program with public-private partnerships moving forward for sure. That's the goal. Yeah. Thank you, Kaylee.
Thank you. Yeah, it's very exciting.
Last quick update for the night is just going to come from me. I think you all may have seen, or if you haven't checked out the link in the tabcom I provided, is there's the 10th Annual Sustainable Transportation Summit coming up. It will be held at the Longmont Library. Just looking for, not library, excuse me, museum. Said that wrong. I was thinking bike share stations. Still looking for how many of you would like a ticket to go. Hopefully you've looked at your schedules and can let me know. We need to order tickets. So I guess you can just raise your hand if you want me to get you a ticket, and we will figure that out. So Taylor, Gina, Arlene, Amy, you may have not had a chance. I'm not sure if you've had a chance to.
I did see it, but just right before we came.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I just said,
Just let me know or follow up with me or Stephanie, whatever's easiest once you know, and we'll figure out a ticket. We'll have to likely post that, but we're already probably doing it for the elected officials as an open meeting for you all, since there will be more than two of you there. But we'll take care of getting those tickets for you so you all can attend. Commuting Solutions is the one sponsoring it and hosting it. You should get an email directly from them. I will provide them your emails that you gave on your TAP application. But if you don't hear from them, let me know, but we'll make sure that you are confirmed and registered. Okay. Thank you. And I think that wraps up, other than going over potential future agenda items, I think. Is that the last thing, Gina? I just closed out, actually.
Yeah.
Sorry, let me reopen.
Well, actually, we have comments from board members first.
Yeah.
Okay. We're actually going to start on the left side today. We'll go this way. Just for, so then our new board member can kind of see how it works.
I guess I really didn't have any comments. I did appreciate the directors from RTD to give the presentation. That was very, very informative.
I enjoyed the RTD presentation. The only thing that I wanted to say, Mr. Angstead, is thank you for fixing the road on 17th between Pace and Alpine.
We'll thank Kyle too. Kyle and Jim.
Great meeting, nothing further.
Wow, short and sweet. Please send the thanks to the directors of RTD because we don't get to hear from them very often, and I knew it would go long. So otherwise, great work, everyone.
Yeah, I want to thank our RTD directors for coming out tonight. I also want to thank the members of the public who came out and gave their comments. I'm sure that will be very useful information as we go over that, what was it, the neighborhood traffic mitigation program next month. I'm sorry I missed Bike to Work Day, but it seems like it was a great time.
Hi, I really appreciated this meeting. I had no idea I was supposed to suddenly ask questions. And so I learned a lot about the structure of it. I've never really set up like this and done this kind of thing before, so I will have to get used to it. But I will. It was a really interesting presentation and all of the questions as well, so thank you. Looking forward to it.
So yeah, I wanted to reiterate my thanks to RTD directors for coming here and giving their time for answering all of our questions, and also to the members of the public who came in and talked about their concerns. And I hope that maybe the staff and city will look at those areas in a little bit more detail to see what can be done to help those community areas. Yeah, and I look forward to the summit next month and probably going to that open town hall next week. Gosh, there's so many transportation things the next couple of months, but I'm sure I'm probably going to go to all of them.
Thank you, Chair. Congrats on your re-election. There we go. Welcome, Board Member Wilkins, to the Transportation Advisory Board. Great to have you here. It's not often, I think, in a transportation circle we get someone who's both passionate about transportation and a small business owner of a relevant transportation-related business. Past or present. So thank you for also coming to the table with that experience in mind as well. Ben, Cami, thank you. Many thanks for your work on the short-term bike parking updates and how you incorporated a range of feedback into this, from TAB meetings to PNC meetings to many other conversations and meetings. Really appreciate that. I think this is moving forward really well, and I'm excited to hear Council's broader discussion on this when it comes forward. I think this is moving forward in a really responsible manner, and really appreciate this. It's exciting. Kaylee and Cami, also many thanks for the work on the B-Cycle docked e-bike share. Super exciting and critical to our last mile and just local connectivity. And then last but certainly not least, Kyle and Jim, thank you both for your particular responsiveness to multiple neighborhood traffic safety questions that I've thrown at you all, and probably many others have over the last few months in particular. Transportation is one of those most widely felt tangible impacts of local government, and frankly, even small improvements go a long way to building trust for bigger infrastructure projects and programs that we do. So really, every little improvement matters there, and reminds people of what we're able to do for them. Speaking of bigger projects, I just wanted to remind maybe TAB and staff, I've gotten some questions and seen some social media comments about the 119 Hover intersection overpass, where people don't fully realize they think that's a bike overpass over that intersection, not a vehicle overpass. So there's been some education that I and others have been doing there, but just wanted to let people know that if people ask about what's happening there, they think it's the extension of the 119 bike highway, and it's not. And that is one of it's a multifaceted improvement there. It's a $165 million project, of which the bike highway is like just a quarter of that. The overpass at 119 and Hover is another, I think, quarter-ish of that $165 million project. Give or take a few million, and it's intended for vehicle efficiency and safety to cross over Hover southbound to bring people faster through that intersection. So in case anyone asks you because you're on TAB, just a reminder that might be where they're coming from on that, and I think the more we can help clarify what's actually happening, the better. Kyle, were you going to jump in?
Yeah, I'll also mention that this project is going to connect the RTD station as well as the rest of the bikeway together. I believe Cammy's working on some wayfinding signs along our city limits, and then we will be installing a new RFRB crossing just south of Hover between Oscar Blues and Hover, basically.
Yeah, right by Brewing Market, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so there's a lot of infrastructure, multimodal going on here, but the overpass specifically people thought was for bikes, which is not, and that's because we have another solution for bike access and travel flow there. So something to keep in mind as you are ambassadors for TAB and the multi-level governmental infrastructure efforts that are happening along that corridor. And last but certainly not least, I won't go into detail here, but I'll flag for TAB board members. Tomorrow, Council will be receiving an informational update. It's already in our packet on kind of an updated management strategy from staff on e-bikes and e-motos. That's been many, many months in the works since kind of last fall direction from Council. So that you can find that publicly on our agenda management portal. I won't go through the details right now. Take a look at it. It's like a 6-7 page update, I think, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, and just to clarify, it's an informational only item tomorrow night. It's not going to be discussed. We are assuming or presuming we'll be asked to come back and do a presentation at a future date. So it's just an outline of all of the different things that have been discussed or have been started or are in the works, to kind of outline just what's been accomplishable so far and what's still being sorted out.
Yep.
So
And
information will hold them at the very end of the packet.
Indeed. Yeah, I would not expect we'll be discussing the substance of that tomorrow night, so don't stay up late for that. But you can read it, and it's a very detailed council com update. So definitely take a look at that. Covers what multiple levels of government are doing on this and what they aren't doing, what the city specifically is doing, from signage, education, incentives, enforcement. All of that is in there, and it involved staff across transportation, public safety, parks.
Multiple departments.
Many departments. So I would expect that this will come to tab for input and discussion at some point, but that's not currently on the schedule. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the feedback. We can pass that on to our comms team too about the confusion you're hearing. That might be helpful for future project updates that go out to the public. So good to know.
Because people are seeing the most visible thing of Mike Highway right now, they just assumed.
Yeah, and because the bridge just went in, there's lots of press about the bridge, so they're seeing bridges in different places. So understandable confusion. So thank you. Okay, last thing I believe, if you're okay, Chair McKee Burrows, is to talk about future agenda items.
Yep.
Right now, what we have slated, as you have seen in your packet, is to bring forward some Sundance Film Festival transportation updates about what we know currently and what's still being worked out, as well as an update, as has been mentioned a couple times tonight by Kyle and some other in the community, to go over some neighborhood traffic mitigation program changes, potential changes. Our legal advisor, one of the city attorneys, or assistant city attorneys, is slated to come and talk to you about your bylaws. There's been some prior discussions about updating your bylaws, and now that we have our newly elected members, we felt like it would be a good time. So Amy, you'll get a little bit more indoctrinated next month too about how the process works. But something that you have brought up before is considering a change in public comment time. So I think that's something the board can discuss if you do want to change that or not. But that would be the time to do it, is when we update the bylaws potentially. So get your thinking caps on about maybe revisit those, and what other potential changes might you want to suggest, because the lawyer will be here to talk through, are those doable or not. And then other than staff updates, that's all we have right now. And now that we know we have our 2 new board members in place, or returning board members, we can keep with the plan for September being your first study session, if you would like to. One of the 2 that were envisioned, whether we end up doing 2 or not, I think is still to be determined. So maybe next month we can decide if you want it to be the roadway roadway guidelines kind of focus area, or roundabout focus areas, which were your 2. So if you need to narrow it down, I think next month we might have the action item to really let's lock in which one you want to do in September. And right now we only have that, Jim, you're going to be missing next month. Sorry, Board Member Palmena, that you won't be here next month, correct?
Yeah, and September. Actually.
Oh, and yeah, Jim, and okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other suggested topics or swap of topics that feel more timely? Okay, we'll roll with that, and then we'll let you know how it falls into place afterwards. All right, I think that's it for the night.
And then I'll just point out, if you guys want to send comments to Steph about what you guys like to see from that presentation for our traffic calming program, your questions or ideas, or just things you might be curious about, just so we can answer those fully in our presentation, and maybe consolidate some of the questions, so we start a packed schedule so we can get moving pretty fast. That'd be great to have that next week or 2.
Okay. I think that's it. I will say, this is the first time there's ever been 3 women on tab, as far as I know. At least, to my knowledge. There's only ever been 1 or 2, so this is pretty exciting. Okay, all right. I will need a motion to adjourn.
I motion that we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we are adjourning at 8:19.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.